think of Michelle Bachmann as a really important principle that we as Christians must understand. And our founding fathers understood this, and it flows out of the Bible passage, render to Caesar what is Caesar's and to God what is God's. And Western civilization has been based on this principle of limited sovereignty, or the idea that a father has sovereignty, is sovereign over his children and his family. A mother is sovereign over her children, but they're not the president. There's limited authority. There's jurisdictional sovereignty, and we have actually 4 institutions in the Bible that are established that there is sovereignty. Sovereignty means the right to rule and govern. The one whose will and commands should be obeyed and must be obeyed.
What are
and
those
the ultimate sovereign in the universe, who has no limits of sovereignty, is who?
Is God.
Yeah, it's God. It's Jesus Christ. Jesus said in the Great Commission, all authority has been given to me in heaven and earth. And the word there isn't dudamos in the Greek. Dudamos means that explosive power, which he does have that too, but he actually says all exousias, which is the right to rule and govern, whose will and commands must be obeyed. And Jesus has all authority, but he gives humans limited authority, and he told humans they were to go and make disciples of all the nations.
Now, you said there were 4.
There are.
What do you call those?
4 areas of sovereignty.
And what are those?
Jurisdictions.
Jurisdiction.
They're
what are
jurisdictional sovereignty. This principle is extremely important. Well, the foundational jurisdictional sovereignty is the family.
Okay.
Adam was given individuality first, and so self-government was the first principle that God established in the Bible, because Adam was to govern himself. But then he gave him a wife. And it was from his own flesh. He didn't create her from another animal,
or from the rest of the dust laying around.
From the other dust. He created her from him, and his flesh of his flesh and bone of his bone. And Adam was given jurisdiction over her, so he had sovereignty over his family. And then he was fruitful and had children, and he had sovereignty over his family. So you have family sovereignty. But then after the flood, God gave civil government. In Genesis chapter 9, he established civil government. And in civil government, there's sovereignty. Now, father...
What is civil government?
Well, first of all, a father doesn't have the right to kill his kids.
Right.
The fathers were never given the right in the New Testament to kill their kids.
Right.
We've had that recently.
Yeah.
What religion does say fathers do have that right? Let's see.
Honor killing.
Is it Christianity teaches honor killing?
No.
Oh no, it's
Islam.
Oh, that's right. Honor killing, and we just had this.
If you dishonor your family, the father supposedly has the right to kill you.
Because of dishonoring, he has the right to kill you, which is a jurisdictional issue. Does a father have the right, because the Bible does say we're to honor our father and mother. That's a correct thing.
Yeah.
But if they don't honor, we aren't honored by our father and mother, or the child doesn't honor their father and mother, does the kid have the right, or does the father have the right to kill them?
No, I wouldn't say so at all.
Well, this is one of the things that's interesting about Judeo-Christianity, and really fundamental Christianity teaches that fathers have the right to the switch. If they don't discipline their children and give them paddlings to teach them good and bad, but they are not given the right to the sword. But in Genesis chapter 9, civil government is given the right to the sword, the death penalty. And that's a jurisdictional issue. And this is the issue.
And I really can't imagine that the government would come in and kill a child because they somehow were disrespectful to their parent.
Well, in a Christian culture, absolutely not. But in Islamic culture, this is showing
Judeo-Christian culture would not do that.
Yeah, Judeo-Christian culture, because Judaism doesn't do that either.
But other cultures do.
Although Judaism does say that if Judaism's pretty strong in Jewish law, if a child does dishonor his parents, there's stoning in Old Testament. But the parents had to do it.
Oh.
They had to,
Yeah, well,
but again, that's where Christianity is different,
right,
even than Jewish law, because we love our neighbor as ourselves. We love unconditionally, and Christ died even for his enemies. So we love our children even when they dishonor us.
Yep.
That's the difference between Christianity and all other religions of the world. And
that is
even though today most Jews would not accept Old Testament Jewish law
right,
on that area,
of stoning them,
and because they aren't following Old Testament Jewish law anyway,
right?
Because they don't have a temple and they don't have sacrifice, because they've rejected Messiah, who is the temple and the sacrifice.
Okay, so we have the family jurisdiction, the civil jurisdiction. What are the other two?
Well, there's the family, the state,
civil government.
Oh, wait a minute. There's church government.
Oh, yeah.
And church government, does it have the right to take up the sword and kill people?
Well, I would say not in the Judeo-Christian churches.
But in
synagogues.
Islam, it does.
Yeah.
See, in Islam, it mixes church and state. It doesn't have this jurisdictional separation and sovereignty that, like Michelle Bachmann clearly understands, that she can be married and submissive to her husband in those areas of family, and still be president, and he can be submissive to her as president.
Right, yeah.
Because there's limited government. We do not have one centralized government. Everything doesn't come down from the center.
And when you think about that, doesn't that actually make her a lot smarter than those people who ask that question, who have no clue?
Well, that's the whole point. Secularism has made us... What did the Proverbs say in the first verse?
Oh, stupid?
Stupid! As you see our blockhead guy, because secularism wants you to think in the box. It wants you to exclude revelation, wants you to exclude God. And our founding fathers never did that. George Washington said, it is impossible to govern without God in the Bible. And if you want to be a blockhead, you be a secularist. If you want to be a blockhead, you be a materialist. If you want to be a blockhead, you believe only that nature is all there is, all there was, and ever will be. But if you want to be open-minded and take your mind to the infinite of the universe, which is God, then we be like Michelle Bachmann, who really has no problem with this jurisdictional sovereignty. See, she clearly sees that her jurisdiction of family, she can be submissive to her husband, she can be submissive to the Constitution, which really, what does a president take an oath to do?
I think it's to defend and uphold. I'm
be
not sure if those
submissive
exact
to.
words.
The word is, yeah, I swear that I will defend and protect the Constitution of the United States.
Yeah.
I am protecting it, but I am submitting to it as well. So submission is something that everyone does. We all are a nation of laws, so we may be the ones who vote people in that make the laws, but then we submit to the laws. So Michelle Bachmann actually really demonstrates a mature person, not a stupid person.
And one of the things to think about in this is that I think there's a fourth person who has a fourth group. There's family, church,
civil
government, and there's one more. What is that?
What is it?
It has something to do with judges.
Well, judges would be
judicial.
It's part of civil government, though.
Well, I thought judicial was the other one.
No, judicial is part of civil government.
Okay.
Our founding fathers actually applied this even more because they said, let's separate this. Take this limited sovereignty. This what I just blanked out on the word. The sovereignty that they used. Judicial not judicial. I'm sorry, I'm blank. But let's take this concept and let's apply it and limit the judicial, the legislature, and the administration. So they divided the government and they applied this principle of jurisdictional. That's the word I was losing. The jurisdictional sovereignty. Let's divide power between the judges between the administration, which is the president, and the Congress, which they even divided more, which was the Senate and the House. So this idea of dividing sovereignty is really foundational principle of our constitutional system. You're wanting to have a fourth one, and it's debated. This is a debated one.
Is it there 4?
The workplace is an area that you could apply that to, and it's become where we have these corporations that you have to work for your employer, and you can't become what would I say, insubordinate to your employer. But that really flows out of slavery. The
So
idea
really,
of an employer owns your time and owns your creativity and owns your labor while you work for him. So really the master-slave relationship is what would apply here, because you have limited slavery in the workplace.
So
but you don't own your time. You don't own your mind.
Would really originally fall under the family.
That's exactly right.
Because everyone worked to
that's why
provide and further
that's
the good
why
of the
where
family.
they're mostly and closer to the small business concept, where the family creates businesses, the children work for the father and the mother, and they educate them and they work them up into being mature people to run their businesses and take it over. The culture tends to work better. But when you go out into the corporate world, that's why people get out there and they begin to realize, I don't like this. They literally own me.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. They do, because it isn't freedom to have just a job. It's freedom to own as much of your resources as possible, and that's where business is the key to that.
I know I'm always happier when I'm running my own business rather than trying
so
to work
we
for
have only
someone
got
else.
through 2 verses, and we've
I
been
know.
going and going and going. Let's at least try to get through a couple more.
Okay. Number 3 is, a man is not established by wickedness, but the root of the righteous cannot be moved.
Wickedness.
What is
Man is
that?
not established. Oh, you remember this week we read that article? It was a blog calling everybody on the left to follow this man
Oh,
from
yes,
500
yes, I do.
years ago that wrote this book called The Prince. Do you remember what that guy's name was that wrote
I
that
probably
book?
won't pronounce it right. Machiavelli?
Yeah, Machiavelli. It's called The Prince, and Machiavelli actually received the kind of revelation of how the prince, the elite, can rule over the peasants. Very much like we're trying to do now. And you know what the basic principle of the prince was?
I think you've told me this before, and it's lying, right?
It's to be wicked.
Wicked.
It's to lie to the people. We do one thing in government, but we tell them another thing.
Well, because the government thinks we're children and we can't take care of ourselves, right?
That's where, unless you have self-government, which is unique in America, because we were established as a self-governing people where we governed ourselves. But what happened, Machiavelli, which is really taught in the Eastern elite schools like Harvard and Princeton and Yale, and many political science departments really love Machiavelli. I remember hearing a call on Rush Limbaugh one day. This girl had just graduated in political science from a major university, and she was so proud of her education. And Rush asked her, well, what did you really learn? Oh, I learned how Machiavelli was great wisdom. Well, Machiavelli is you lie to the peasants or the electorate, and you govern the opposite way. Bill Clinton was admired because he was so Machiavellian. Barack Obama is the ultimate Machiavellian. And really this new attack upon the Tea Party, that the Tea Party has created this downgrade of the United States government by the
ridiculous thing.
I mean, they've been trying, they're the messenger. They've been trying to say, stop spending. The government has been on a spending spree for many years.
Well, really, I know the people that I've met that are affiliated, connected with, support the Tea Party are business owners, hardworking people, some retired people, but people that believe in America and believe in hard work and are not afraid of it. And the